Welcome back to Trinity Place in Geneva, New York. My name is Cameron Miller, and this is a sermon for the 7th Sunday after Pentecost. And I cannot pretend to know, to get inside Joe Biden's head. But my guess is he doesn't want to give up. I'm guessing he doesn't want to let go. Not so much of power and prestige, although there is no doubt those are golden handcuffs. And by the way, this is not about Joe Biden nor a political diatribe. I'm just using him as an example. Because I suspect, like all of us in earshot of this sermon, he doesn't want to let go and say that he's got nothing left. That's no excuse, of course, but who among us ever wants to just admit we've got nothing left that can make a difference in the universe around us? If I can tell a story on one of our friends from here, Bunny Bell, who isn't with us anymore, I really don't think that she would mind, even if she was among us. Because sitting up in a chair in her house, but under hospice care, at age 90 gazillion, she grimaced and said the same thing she had been saying to me for 10 years. I hate not being able to do anything for anybody else. My dad, in his 80s, sitting on a lawn chair on the banks of the lake, watching me pull up the dock one early October morning, said he hated sitting there watching me do what he had always done for the family. Now, no one is here by accident. And by that, I do not mean everything happens for a reason, because I do not believe that everything happens for a reason, any more than I believe that wealth and power are a sign of God's blessing, which is nothing more than the theology of capitalism. What I mean is, you and I are here to carry on what Ezekiel promised 2,500 years ago, that they shall know there has been a prophet among them. You and I have been chosen for prophetic witness, and in order to succeed as prophets, we must be nestled and nurtured in the womb of community. And that's what this is, by the way. You see, Jesus was painfully right when he said, a prophet is not without honor except in his hometown or among her own kin or in his own house. And I'm guessing you know exactly what that means, because you have had the experience, I'm sure, of being marginalized or silenced or invisible when you tried to speak truth to power, or simply had to use uncomfortable candor among your own family and friends or in your own home. So I suspect you know what it's like to be the odd one out when you saw and knew what others had used blinders to ignore. And if you're like me, you haven't always spoken up. We all know the pressure to sit on our voice. For some of us, we have to place the weight of a jack-in-the-box so that our prophetic voice won't pop up and make everybody uncomfortable. But the voice is in there, and you hear it. And you know what Jesus is talking about when he says the prophet is not without honor except in his or her own house. You're not alone. There are others here in this place just like you. And that's what I mean, you're not here by accident. And once here, waiting for you and me in this womb of community, there's a voice. A voice that may or may not have words. I was just trying to teach my 5-year-old grandson that some things have a voice even if they don't have words. Now, he's very bright, probably an engineer or physicist or scientist of some kind in the making, and he's a keen observer of the world that is all around him. but he's not naturally inclined to see the whole field around him, mostly just the material, the physical. So when I told him that some things have a voice but no words, he just looked at me. He tilted his head. And after a moment he said, "What?" To think of a voice and words as two different things was a new thought to him. His grandmother said, "Declan, we're going to teach you about mystical things." And that's what we're talking about here. Mystical things like voices without words. But you know that also from the material things. Because your dog or your cat or even your bird have a voice without words. The wind has a voice, or should I say voices, and they help amplify the voice of the trees, though trees have a voice even without the rustling of their leaves. So it's not too far a jump from the voices without words that we hear on a day-to-day basis to the voice or voices we hear without words that speak to us within the corridors of our own hearts and minds. Discerning those voices, who and what is speaking, is one of the challenges of being a spiritual person. In fact, I think that's what it means to be a spiritual person. So I want to tell you something that you may already know, or that you may have already built a wall of resistance to knowing. Somewhere in the womb of community is a voice waiting for you. And it is waiting for us to take it with us and carry it to the next person or people who need to hear it. The voice that speaks here in your heart or mind must not be left here, because this is a womb. Words left here die here because they have a limited gestation period. The word we receive here from the voice made known to us has to leave here and be heard by those others for whom the voice and the words were intended. Now, I'm not saying we know all this all the time and that we're fully conscious of it. We probably aren't. But surely you've had the experience of suddenly realizing that you heard something or you learned something that was needed at a time or by someone else, and you didn't even know it until it just happened, till the memory popped up and you said, "Oh yeah." Well, that's what I'm talking about. The words you hear from that voice that is not yours or anybody else's will act like a low rumble inside with the volume of a whisper, and it will gently pulsate inside. It's just a little word, a teeny tiny drop in the ocean of thoughts that form the field of vision from which we view the universe. But, as we know, a single drop of rain falls in a pond and isn't noticed on its own. Rather, it joins the crescendo of drops that thunder into a flood, that overrun the banks, that spill into the river, that overrun those banks and levees and dams, and changes the landscape forever. Listening to the voice or voices within us, discerning whose and what their source is, and then sharing the word or words we hear with those who we are guided to share them with. That is prophecy. And when we participate in it, as Ezekiel said, they will know a prophet has been among them. Well, may you hear the word or words meant for you.